Welcome to the McEnulty Method. We are joining financial expert Frank McEnulty and Colin Sorrells, and they're going to answer our questions about money and finance. Frank, Colin, thank you so much for joining us.
Bill, always good to be here.
Well, we've got a lot of questions this week. They've been sending them in like crazy, so if you guys don't mind, I just want to jump right into it. And the first one is, we've got a question about real estate, and here it is. This guy writes in, title is, does it ever make sense to buy a home if you're single? And here's what he says. That I'm always thinking about the future, and I'm always told that owning a home is better than simply renting all your life. But I know many successful people who are single, no significant other, no kids, and make above per capita yearly wage. Now, I'm not saying the house has to be 4-bedroom, 3-bath, unfinished basement starting at a low $300K, but in general, does it make sense to buy a house if you meet the above qualifications I mentioned? That is, no significant other, single, no kids, and above per capita yearly income. Does it make sense?
I think it makes great sense to buy a house. I mean, when it doesn't make sense to buy a property is when you don't think you're going to be there long. Because it can go up, it can go down in the short term. There are costs associated with buying and selling a piece of property. But if you think you're going to be at a job for a while, or it's in a good rental market, you'd like to keep it as a rental, there's absolutely no reason to not buy a house because you're building equity. When you live in an apartment, you're building the owner's equity. When you live in your own place, you're building your own equity. So there's very few reasons not to buy your own property.
I think you even said that in one of our other videos. You say always better to own than rent, at least if you can. What I think is interesting, the question that comes from your explanation is, what is that time frame? I mean, if you're, obviously if it's a rental property, then it doesn't really matter how long you plan to live there. You're just going to hold it as a rental. But if you plan to stay at the place and you're using it as a stepping stone to a bigger home, how long do you think you have to stay in one place for it to make sense to buy a home, avoid that short-term volatility, if you will?
Well, it's hard to say. Look at what's happening right now. Odds are housing prices overall are going to go down a little in the next year or so. With interest rates going up, they went up another 0.75% today. It's making houses less affordable. And so the price of a house, for the most part, is based on what people can afford to pay. So if you're just going to be somewhere 6 months, unless you think, well, I can buy it and I can rent it out after I leave, it doesn't really make sense. 2 years, probably that's the low end of when you should think about buying. But anything beyond that, you should be okay most of the time.